See Jambo, everybody. See, Jambo means in Swahili, hello, and I am fine. I think I've said this to people before, but I just sometimes like to just repeat it so you can get it, because they ask me, why do you be saying things on your programs that people don't know what it means? So I'm doing it again, and I know I've done it over the years. So anyway, welcome back to Satora's Black History Corner internet program. I am your host, Catherine Hunter Williams, and my co-host, Catherine Blake.
Hello, everybody.
All right. Today I'm going to teach our story about black soldiers in the Civil War of 1862 to 1865, by doing it with speeches from Fredrick Douglass regarding this war.
All right.
They've been showing this war on the Civil War on PBS for the last couple of weeks.
Oh.
And I finally, when I got it, seen it, it was when they were bringing the black soldiers in, and that was in 1862.
Okay.
Very interesting, and a lot of that had to do with Fredrick Douglass. And Miss B is going to teach about Miss Vera Rison, an awesome woman who lived in Beecher, but was very strong in politics in the city of Flint.
Amen.
And who recently joined the realm of her ancestors.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Let's get it on. I don't need this anymore. I don't think. Unless I ask John for something. This something is. There we go. Maybe it'll stay right there. All right. Sorry about that. A little technical difficulty. I hope y'all can catch this. Read that right there. About black slave owners. They don't believe blacks own slaves.
Oh, and black slave owners. Free black slaves. Masters in South Carolina, 1790 to 1860. This is by Larry Kroger? Koger.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this a book?
This a book.
Okay.
And I want y'all to get it too, because, you know, black people and white people have a tendency to believe that black people didn't own slaves, and yet they did.
Black slave owners.
That's right. That's right. So we're going to probably, if we get a time, we'll repeat this after. I'm not sure what time we started, about 3:35 we started. Miss B?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, the Civil War becomes a revolutionary war, and then I'm going to speak with Fredrick Douglass regarding the Civil War. It was the summer of 1862. America's Civil War had been underway for 16 months across the Atlantic Ocean in northern English city of Manchester. And Fredrick Douglass, well, this guy said Friedrich Engels was upset. He said things are going. Oh, I'm reading the wrong paper. I'm sorry. Oh, Lord. I thought I was reading about Fredrick Douglass, but it turned out to be a guy named Friedrich Engels.
As a collaborator with Karl Marx.
Yes.
Yeah, there is
a socialist.
There's a contemporaneous there, because that's when Marx and Engels are very relevant in England and in Germany. They were like in the 1850s, 1860s, and they were watching the American Civil War. They were watching.
Yeah.
So Friedrich Engels and but I think actually Karl Marx at one point was actually a correspondent for one of the New York newspapers. He was like their eyes in Europe, and basically, so I think he had a job there. I forget which paper. I think it was the New York Times. I think it was. But anyway, that was about to say there's a lot of crossover. You know, the rights for human rights and stuff was kind of not just the United States, was also throughout the world. You know, there's a struggle for human rights.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Marx and Engels obviously were part of that.
And they were watching the war as it was progressing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very interesting. But he was, his name is Friedrich Engels, and Brother John just gave you some history about him. But that was not the story I wanted to read from. So, let me find my paper, but let me move on. Okay, let's go with Fredrick Douglass regarding the Civil War. I can read you a little bit more about Friedrich Engels. he was upset about this Civil War. And he said things are going wrong in America. Engels filmed in a letter to a friend in London. He ticked off the latest military setbacks suffered by the North in the war against Southern slave power. One blunder after another on the primary battleground of Virginia, a Confederate breakthrough with the offensive that drove across Tennessee and Kentucky to the banks of the Ohio River. He concluded that against all odds, the North was on the edge of defeat. Now, Fredrick Douglass came on the scene because he would go and talk to President Abraham Lincoln during that time. And Abraham Lincoln, he kept telling him to bring the blacks in, let them come in, free the blacks, and let them come in and fight this war. And that is exactly what he did, and they won the war. The Civil War was ended when blacks got in there. Okay, this is some words from Fredrick Douglass regarding the Civil War. On March 2nd, 1863, eminent abolitionist and former slave Fredrick Douglass sent out his powerful message in his newspaper, Douglass Monthly, titled Men of Color to Arms. It urged black men to support the nation's war and the crusade to end generations of slavery. Approximately 180,000 American African soldiers took up the call to fight for the Union, comprising more than 10% of all the federal forces.
Wow.
A lot of black men died in that war.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, knowing that a northern loss could mean possible re-enslavement. Free men and former slaves showed dedication to their country and a commitment to the freedom of their people forever. Fredrick Douglass saw the Civil War as the inevitable consequence of man's inhumanity to man, and it is sad, and a necessary conflagration to break the bonds of slavery. He saw immediately that if former slaves could fully participate in the fighting, they could not be denied full citizenship in the Republic. George Luther Turner, one of the original backers of John Brown, became a major in the Union Army. He immediately turned to Douglass to help recruit colored troops. The March issue of Douglass Monthly.
Douglass Monthly.
Yeah, I wrote about it in the newsletter. I started it off, a series kind of going on. Anyway, and that newsletter is called Satora's Black History Corner, which enhances this program too. A little bit more stuff in there than it is what we talk about here. But anyway, let's move forward because time is ticking right on. The March issue of Douglass Monthly issued the well-known challenge Men of Color to Arms. Douglass recruited over 100 free blacks from upstate New York for the 54th Massachusetts. Among the recruits arriving at the boot camp were two of Douglass' sons, Lewis and Charles.
Oh, two of his sons.
Yep. Lewis, the older son, served as the first sergeant major of the 54th, and he was in the thick of the fighting at Fort Wagner, where 1,515 Union troops were mowed down by a blistering barrage from the Confederate stronghold. Lewis marveled that he returned unharmed from the assault. President Lincoln sought Douglass' advice and invited him to the White House. Apparently, the two men came to an immediate understanding and respect for one another. Douglass left that meeting feeling that his concerns would be addressed, and he agreed to continue to do more recruiting. Excuse me. Slow down, Catherine. My mind's zipping over that way. Douglass had one more meeting with Lincoln on behalf of black soldiers concerning equal pay. He felt that his advice was sincerely sought and duly considered. Nevertheless, Douglass was often frustrated by Lincoln's procrastination and issuing the Emancipation Proclamation. The Emancipation Proclamation, which went into effect on January 1st, 1863, was a decisive moment in the relationship of Douglass and Lincoln. Once having been issued, the slavery system was doomed. Douglass had persuaded Lincoln to make the pronouncement, and once having done so, the course of the war and the future of the nation were profoundly changed. And this is some words, some quotes from Fredrick Douglass. Who would be free themselves must strike the blow. I urge you to fly to arms and smite to death the power that would bury the government and your liberty in the same hopeless grave. This is your golden opportunity. This is when he was asking the soldiers to rise. Once let the black man get up his person, the brass letter U.S. Let him get an eagle on his button and a musket on his shoulder and bullets in his pocket. There is no power on earth that can deny that he has earned the right to citizenship. But there is no Negro problem. The problem is whether the American people have loyalty enough, honor enough, patriotism enough to live up to their own constitution. John, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say about Karl Marx, by the way, because he was a contributor for the New York Daily Tribune. He wrote from the 1850 to 1861, legend, you know. So he did. I just wanted to clarify. It was a New York Daily Tribune. That's the newspaper that Karl Marx was a contributor to at one point. So just let you all know.
Okay. All right. Here, this other part. Black troops in the Civil War, Georgia. More than 3,500 black Georgians served in the Union Army and Navy between 1862 and 1865. Enlistment occurred in two distinct phases, beginning on the federally occupied Sea Island of Georgia and South Carolina in 1862 to 1863, and resuming in the northwestern Georgia and southern Tennessee in mid-1864 during the latter stages of the Atlanta campaign. And I want to say something. You know, they trying to get all these what they want to call them, the Confederate flag and racist symbols. Okay, well, on Stony Mountain, there are 4 men that fought in that war, and one of them was General Sherman Jackson. Am I right, John? His name is General Sherman Jackson.
I mean, there's I don't know the poor in the which mountain was that again? Which mountain?
On Stony Mountain in Atlanta, Georgia, which they say is very racist because they have all those generals that fought in the war, Civil War.
Civil War, yeah.
Their faces is on that granite side of the mountain.
Right.
And it's to always remind people of racism.
Yeah, that's.
You think they're gonna get rid of that one? That too?
It could.
I doubt it.
I think it could happen. I do.
It could happen, Catherine. Yeah, I do, because they're getting rid of. I mean, the Panthers, the new Black Panthers, and the Ku Klux Klan was in South Carolina's capital when they was, talking about removing the flag, and they had a lot of issues. They had some woof stuff going on down there, but that flag is coming down. So they want to remove all these different symbols that reminds people of racism. Yeah, I don't know how much is that's going to help, because I believe the only way that this racial hatred that's in these people's heart is going to be only removed through the Lord.
It's in the heart.
Yep. Okay, let me just knock this out, then we're going to let Miss B get to what she got to do. Her telling her teaching about our story about Vera Rising. This is still about the Atlanta campaign of May-September 1864. General Sherman, I think his last name is Jackson, I think. Should have got him.
That's actually his name is General Tecumseh Sherman. That's his full name. General George Tecumseh, that's his full name. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, it says Sherman. Here,
George Tecumseh Sherman is the full name. George Tecumseh Sherman.
Were the former slaves who followed under Union General William T. Sherman to Savannah.
William, not George. William Tecumseh, yeah.
Yeah, these were volunteers. But anyway, this is what he said. During the Atlanta campaign of May through September 1864, General Sherman opposed black enlistment with word and deed. An avowed white supremacist and a reluctant liberator at best, Sherman made no effort to conceal his contempt for blacks or to disguise the racist dogma behind his opposition to black soldiers. John, can you look up on the internet and see where those 4 generals that are on Stony Mountain right quick?
Okay, I will.
Yeah. Such phrases as nigger and vagabond, niggas and bought recruits and niggas in the refuse of the South. That means they wasn't about nothing, huh? Mm-hmm. Throwaway. Filled his personal letters. Anxious to employ blacks as laborers, Sherman was determined that the forces under his command would remain exclusively white. On June 3rd, 1864, he issued Special Field Order Number 16, forbidding recruiting officers to enlist blacks who were employed by the Army in any capacity. Oh yeah, he knew he was going to lose if they let them up in there, huh? You think so? Despite Sherman's opposition, the enrollment of black soldiers began in occupied areas of northwestern Georgia under authority granted to Colonel Reuben D. Mussey, the Nashville, Tennessee-based commissioner for the organization of U.S. colored troops in the Department of Cumberland. He couldn't stop it, no matter what he tried to do. Although Johnson claimed that his black troops displayed the greatest anxiety to fight, he surrendered to the hood and quickly secured paroles for himself. Okay? Mm-hmm. He knocking them down. He talking bad about them. But he quickly secured paroles for himself and the 150 or so other white troops attached to the garrison. They were protecting them. Mm-hmm. The regiment's 600 American African enlisted men suffer a harsher fate. Soon, some were re-enslaved while others were sent to work on the fortification project in Alabama and Mississippi. Many ended the war as prisoners in Columbus and Griffith, Georgia, where they were released during May 1865 in what was one of them described as a sick, broken down, naked, and starved condition. They treated them bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The generals on the on Stone Mountain were all Confederates.
Yeah.
Generals. They're Jefferson Davis, Robert E. Lee, and Thomas J. Stonewall Jackson, and their horses, Blackjack, Traveler, and Little Sorrel. So those are the horses. They're all mounted on horses. In the pit.
Right. They own horses on that mountain. They carved them out like that.
Yeah, it was Jefferson Davis, Robert E. Lee, and Thomas J. Stonewall Jackson. So.
Thank you. It's Stonewall Jackson. I really had it messed up, didn't I? Thank you, John. All right. Let me end this. Fearful of reprisals from embittered Confederates, the black veterans concealed their connection with the Union cause. Oh yeah. Additional black enlistment took place along the Georgia coast in 1865 after the fall of Savannah and Sherman's departure into South Carolina. Many blacks from Georgia coastal counties also saw the service as pilots and seamen on Union vessels throughout the war. And that's our story. And if you want to do any further reading, you can get this book. It's called On the Threshold of Freedom, Masters and Slaves in the Civil War. And it's written by Clarence L. Mohr, M-O-H-R. That's On the Thresholds of Freedom, Masters and Slaves in Civil War. Clarence L. Mohr. All right. That's our story about Fredrick Douglass regarding his views on the Civil War. And we really couldn't get in depth because this man has a lot to say that he talked with President Abraham Lincoln about. So, and we talked about black troops in the Civil War in Georgia. So, that's our story.
Okay,
now
everyone.
We're gonna pass it on to Miss B. Okay.
This is about a great woman that lived in Beecher, but she was very an activist in the city of Flint, in Genesee County, and state of Michigan. Miss Vera B. Rison. She was born February 14, Valentine's Day, in 1939, and she joined her ancestors August 31st, 2015. She was a Democratic member of the Michigan House of Representatives from 1997 through 2002. She was born in Shelby, Mississippi, and she received her high school diploma from the Mott Adult Night School, and she worked at the Genesee Memorial Hospital from 1969 to 1990, and she was elected to the Genesee County Board of Commissioners in 1986, serving for 10 years. Considered one of Flint's area's most fervent champions, Mrs. Rison was also the director of the Human Resources at the Mary Jo Manor Housing Complex, a member of the Genesee County Community Mental Health Board and the Genesee County Substance Abuse Services Board and the Job Central Workforce Development Board. There wasn't a time she ever had that she wouldn't share with anybody. That was from her daughter, Chantella Bird, remembering picnics Rison would hold for the neighborhood with food donated from local stores. She had a contagious spirit. Everyone loved her. She was easy to talk to, and everybody in the neighborhood called her Granny B. She will be missed, and she leaves a great legacy. That spirit and being a champion for the people were attributes that reflected Mrs. Rison in her day-to-day life. That was a quote stated by her sister, Mrs. Patsy McMullen. She was a strong fighter, and she fought for the people. She fought for her family, and she fought for Genesee County. She fought for Beecher. She fought for everyone. She was really concerned about everybody's needs, and she was concerned about everything was right for everybody, equal opportunities and jobs. She worked in the communities, and she earned her accolades. A library was named after her, the Beecher School. Superintendent Joshua Tallison said she helped fund operations at the Friends of the Library Group, as well as the woman's shelter named in her honor. And Rison was also given the A. Philip Randolph Institute of Civil Rights Human Rights Award in 1994 and the Black History Month Award for contributions in 1993. And she did not lose her humility. She remained humble during the whole process, and she was elected to the State House. All her cares about was helping the next person. She didn't take, and she didn't look for any pats on the back from somebody to recognize her. She remained an active voice in the community after her days in office, speaking out on issues and hitting the streets for discussions, even after diabetes contributed to the loss of her eyesight in her later life. Looking at people gathered in the front yard of her home, her son, Mose Rison, said he was sad, but he knew his mother had gone home and was in God's care now. He also said, I am proud to say that I was her son, that she was my mom.
She also ran for mayor in 1999, and I do believe that Vera was the first American African woman to run for mayor from the city of Flint.
Amen.
Yeah.
Bob Emerson served alongside of Miss Rison in the State House, and later had her run for the district office for him when he became the state senator after she was out of the office. Vera had such a big heart that there was no one who cared more about the people of Flint and Genesee County, he said. Her interest in legislation focused on human services and programs for the community. She cared more for the people that had no voice than anyone I've ever known. That's what Bob Emerson said. What people might refer to as the downtrodden in society, she cared more for those people, and that had nothing, and showed that every day. Dan Kildee shared a kind word about Mrs. Rison. He met her 35 years ago at the Whaley Children's Center, where when he was on staff there, she was a foster parent. I didn't know she was a foster parent too.
I knew Vera. I met Vera in the early 80s when I was a member of the Genesee, I don't know what the name of it today is, but it's called the Black Caucus.
Oh.
During that day, and she was, John Hunter was her mentor, and that's who really catapulted her into politics. And Vera would just sit there, and John Hunter, I don't know if people remember John Hunter. He was very active. Him and John Epps were both very active in the political scene in the city of Flint. And they were the chairs of the Black Caucus. In other words, they used to call them the Godfathers. Oh, once upon a time. Yeah. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. Anyway, Vera was very sweet to me. And there was nothing during that time when I was politically active that I could not get from Vera. She was here. She was for everybody. I didn't know her. I don't know if she ever turned anybody away. She was just a sweet woman, and she did her thing while she was doing her thing.
Yes, she did.
In the political arena. And even the last time I seen her, she was blind, and we were working on, I think, Greg Eson's campaign during that time. And that's what the last time, actually, I've seen Vera. Maybe.
She wasn't coming out that much.
Right, because of her blindness. Yeah.
Because I remember my grandson, I found the picture of my grandson and a couple of my granddaughters where we were helping her with her campaign. And we had the white shirts with the red, and the colors were red and white. And we were all, I found that picture, and I said, wow, this is really nice. They were so young. We were helping her with her campaign, and she was so nice, and she treated everybody out to McDonald's that day.
But Vera was like that.
Yeah.
Vera was nice. I don't know if you mentioned it, but did you mention about her dedication to Vera B. Rison Women's Shelter of Hope and her library that they did for her day in her honor?
Out there in Beecher, yep.
And this is something. Rison became the first House member in recent memory to forego any committee assignments when she died. So
that was the last piece I didn't read.
When she did, so in the 1999 to 2000 session. All right. That's our story.
That's our story for today.
About a good friend of a lot of people in the city of Flint, the state of Michigan, who did a whole lot of things for different people. On any level, she never turned you away. She was awesome and a wonderful woman.
And had a beautiful voice, too.
Yeah, she did. I always used to ask her, did you ever sing jazz? Because she had a jazzy
She had a beautiful voice,
But anyway, she joined the realm of her beloved ancestors on August 31st. At her home. Bless her family. Think on her. Remember her.
Absolutely.
Don't forget her. A lot of people will remember Vera Rison. Absolutely. Okay. We talked about. We taught about Fredrick Douglass regarding the Civil War and how his take on it. The Confederate general soldiers on the Stony Mountain in Atlanta, Georgia, which John gave us the correct names of the people that's on that mountain riding horses. We talked about Friedrich Engels and his take on the Civil War, who was a socialist, John?
They were communists. They're communists. Yeah, communists. Yeah, they're out communists.
Okay.
But
that just showed us that the world was watching the war, and people think that the world is not watching America and what's going down today.
Yeah, they're watching.
The world is watching.
Absolutely.
We taught about the black troops in the Civil War in Georgia.
That's heartbreaking.
What?
The way they were treated.
In Georgia.
And how many of them died.
But that's what I mean. That's the hate that's in these people's heart. And when you call them a nigger or whatever you want to call them, you remove their identity. They're not human anymore to you. So you do whatever you want to them. And it's not a term of endearment. Get that straight. Okay, y'all want to make it, y'all so put, oh, Jesus, okay, let me leave that alone because I can go off on it a little bit. But anyway, that's our story on this day. And Satora's Black History Corner internet program comes to you via satellite at allpointstv.com. You can watch our program every second and fourth Monday of the month, unless the day is falls on a holiday, starting at 3:30. Also, be sure to watch what's going on with political pundit Dr. George Boss every Monday at 2 p.m. As always, I like to say Asante, which is a Swahili word for thanks to all of you who have watched our program today. And if you like what you have seen and heard, please pass it on to others. Until next time, my God-given, incredibly awesome, great, powerful, and strong people, keep on keeping on with us. Amani, which means peace.
All right.